What's up, Carlton? I think he's here. I don't know when this message was left, but yeah, we this is Ask Me Anything format. It was originally supposed to be Sunday, but yeah, stuff happened. But this is Ask Me Anything, so no particular subject. You know, just here to you know take questions and comments. Ah, and obviously, if there aren't any questions or comments, I'll end this early. That seems fair. But yeah, originally this was supposed to be Ask Me Anything Sunday, so I'm probably gonna change out the photo for this live stream. But until then, I'm just waiting to see if anyone wants to ask questions, stuff like that. And while I do that, I will um, look at my Fire Stick on YouTube recommended videos. Like I said, but actually I think what I should do is before I go too far, make sure that this is actually public, or I'm going to be sitting here talking to myself the whole time. Let me make sure this is public. So sometimes I do forget. Okay, live. Yep. So it says I'm live, and it shows my visibility is public, and that the stream is a mobile stream. Oh, yep. So yeah, people here. So hello to the people coming into the chat room. This is my Ask Me Anything format where people can just ask me questions as long as they are family friendly and as long as they're not expecting me to be their therapist. Those are the two caveats. Is that it's family friendly questions and that um, the questions not only are family friendly but aren't in a way asked in a way that I'm like given some sort of ersatz therapy. Mm-mm. But yeah, so generally, like I said, when ask me anything format, people ask me, all sorts of assorted questions. And I don't mind what type of questions people ask as long as they're, you know, family friendly. Family friendly meaning, you know, stuff that isn't morbid or um inappropriate in some way. So, But aside from that, I'll generally take any questions, and that doesn't mean I know everything that I can, So if someone asks me a question about something that I'm not aware of, but I'm willing to, approach any topic. Like I said, I see a few people in the chat room. So like I said, so chat. If people want to ask me questions, go right ahead. Um, Shira Thomas says, "How are you doing today?" I'm doing well. Same thing with Joshua says, "How are you on this blessed day?" Doing well. It's late. I'm contemplating doing a secondary run this evening before I pack it up for the night. Um, Faded Crashes says, "Are we entering end times?" I don't know what end times would look like because how do you how do you know what the end times are except on hindsight? So I don't know that. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Um, Ted Elliott says, "How's your day, bro?" It's okay. Nothing I want to write a poem about, but let me see what else do I have here. Um, D dash spiritual dash F says, "If you were trapped on an island, would you rather resort to cannibalism or die of starvation?" Um, I think that's a false dilemma, as if you're on an island, that means there's marine animals around the island. So wherever there's water, there's life. So if you are surrounded on a deserted island, the water isn't deserted. um, unless you are in the Red Sea or something. But most islands are surrounded by water, and water contains life. So I think that would be a false dilemma. Now, assuming that there, now if we're looking at this in a very abstract, and there's either option A or option B. Um, I don't know. I don't know how I would react to that. So I would honestly wouldn't know. I would like to say, oh, I would do this or I would do that, but because I find the scenario so artificial, I can't really decide which way I would decide. To be honest, sorry if that sounds indecisive, but that's my honest answer. I wouldn't know. Uh, Curtis Knight says, "Do you have a brother named Obama?" No, I mean, you guys can't answer. I mean, ask better questions than that. Like you're trying to be, you're trying to clown, but you just sound corny. Like I can't stand little autistic retards like you who think they're being funny, but you lack the IQ to be funny. Like you lack the IQ points to even be funny. You do. Like most of you are fucking retarded. You're a bunch of neural. Mm, neurodivergent retards. Abby Fishes is hi. Just wanted to let you know Jesus loves you. Josh Places, would you like to discuss what we all did today? I don't know who we is, but I'm not interested unless you drop in a super chat. Joe Bummy says, I seen you in a movie. Very unlikely. Odie says, that's something I liked. I appreciate it. Spam the Neo Jesus says, now your chance to be a big shot. Why don't you be a big shot and actually take an IQ test and see if you can score over, if you can score something higher than 100, which I highly doubt you can because you sound stupid. Yeah. D Spiritual says, yes, sir, you got it. It's a trick question. It's not a trick question if, again, and with, I'm not trying to be insulting, but with all due respect, you and most of the people in the chat room aren't smart enough to give me a trick question. You're not. Like either you're neurodivergent or you're a minor. Either way, whether minor or neurodivergent, you're not smart enough to give me trick questions. Yeah. Not doing any shout outs. If anyone wants a shout out, drop it in the super chat. This is Ask Me Anything, so you can ask, but I'm not going to do anything above and beyond answering questions because if you want something like a shout out, then you will drop a super chat or you will donate to the Cash App. I'm not doing any favors for anyone. If you want those things, you need to drop a super chat. Do Yeah, it's pathetic. Some of these attempts to get me to say something. Again, you're not. Again, for the trolls trying to get me to say something, it's not going to work. You guys are kind of fucking stupid. I don't know who need. I don't know if anyone's ever broken it to you before, but you trolls are not bright. You're retarded. You're some neurodivergent autistic twit who has no real friends or life in the real world. So you come to live streams and you have to troll because you're a loser in real life and you're not smart enough to trick a person who's neurotypical. Yeah. Mm-mm. Chosen being 316 says, I'm new here. What's this channel about? Well, as the name implies, just a contrarian, I talk about topics from a non-mainstream perspective. Not that I go out of my way to take the contrarian position, so to speak. I just speak from a position of either you know my own personal experiences and things that I arrive at through you know the use of reason. So often it is the case when you are guided through the principles of reason, you're often not going to be accepting of positions that most people would because they didn't think think it through before accepting these views. For them, it's just something they see as common knowledge. The problem is common knowledge is often wrong. So, and that explains basically what my channel is about. So I talk about things from a more rational perspective, even if people don't agree with it. And one of the biggest topics I usually talk about is either academic topics, particularly revolving around philosophy and science, or around pop culture stuff like superheroes and sci-fi and movies, stuff like that. So that's generally what my channel's about. And then also, I also talk about traveling and stuff dealing with going to Asia, even including like food and my wife and stuff like that. So that's what my channel's generally about. I would I will be probably making a second channel at some point, where I'm just going to talk about one given topic, whether that be martial arts or traveling. It'll be one of those two, but I haven't decided yet. Someone says Buddy's mad he's genetically challenged. You're grammatically challenged. Like that sentence literally doesn't make sense. Buddies, plural, mad, he genetically challenged. You're fucking stupid. And Jose Garcia, you really shouldn't be talking shit. You need to be worrying about ice. Yeah, I said it. What's up, Liam Ghost Gaming? He says, have a great night. Gary ODST says, what would you do with a 540,000 inheritance? Um, I mean, that's an amount that's both. That's a first of all, that's a weird amount. 540,000. Is that is that like something personally that you've inherited? Because that's a weird number to ask someone what would they do if they inherit 540,000. Maybe that's something you're coming into in real life. But the funny thing about 540,000, like that's $500,000, is both a lot of money in one sense and not a lot of money in another sense. Like it's a lot of money when you have none, obviously, but it's not a lot of money in a sense that you could actually like do something major with it. Like maybe you could open up a small, like a franchise. There's franchise um, retail stores that can be opened up pretty cheaply, like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is actually much cheaper than trying to open up like a McDonald's or something. McDonald's is an expensive franchise. Um, and in this day and time, they're not. It's actually a pretty. And in this day and time, it's kind of a risky venture. Like 30, 40 years ago, McDonald's was guaranteed, like guaranteed success. Nowadays, with people being more health conscious, with then with the rise of the fast casual restaurants to compete with McDonald's, and the problem is McDonald's now costs as much as the the more the better tasting food out there. Is like a lot of people are going to choose the better tasting food that costs the same amount as McDonald's. McDonald's was never that great tasting here in America anyway. Overseas is freaking delicious. But um, here in America, people went to McDonald's because it was clutch. It was cheap. You had the dollar menu. You had the dollar, the dollar value menu. Um, so people didn't care that it wasn't great tasting. You went there for the affordability. But with it not having the affordability, what's the point of even going anymore when you're going to pay the same amount at McDonald's that you're going to pay at Five Guys or Chipotle, right? Um, so I would rather invest in a retail or restaurant type franchise where it's more likely to do well. Like I said, can't even count on McDonald's anymore. Now overseas, I was still McDonald's would be a better investment. Here, no, like maybe Chick-fil-A, 7-Eleven. I wouldn't invest in Starbucks either because they are known for cannibalizing their own stores. Like Starbucks and Subway are notorious for like putting up a store right where there's already another store, so that they have to compete for the same customers, which is not fair because there's no difference between them other than where whatever, except for wherever the person decides to drive by first and gets the customer. That's not good. But yeah, I mean, with 540,000, maybe invest in a small franchise. I know that was a very lengthy answer, but maybe invest in a small franchise, or for me, buy a secondary, um, get a secondary passport through a citizenship through investment program. Um, those would be the two likely things I would do with $540,000 inheritance. Because again, $540,000 is not a lot of money. Like I said, it's a lot of money when you have none, but to do, but 540,000 isn't a lot of money to do something major with it, right? So, like I said, I would look into like one of the cheaper citizenship through investment programs, or I would look into one of the cheaper franchise fast food chains that I could acquire, like Chick-fil-A. Benny doesn't know, says bro is missing a chrome. Again, do you guys not know how to use the word is or use an apostrophe to make a grammatical sentence? How are you going to say that someone is stupid when you can't even make a grammatically intact sentence? Fucking stupid. Um, what's up, Lee and Ghost Gaming? I had a. I mean, I've assumed you were a old time viewer, because I've thought I've seen your name here before, and so I've assumed that you were a long time viewer. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm confusing your username with someone else who also uses Liam in their username. But either way, appreciate you liking the stream. Hope you stick come by more often. Rachel Cross is Ultra Instinct. It's not hard to go Ultra Instinct on a bunch of nincompoops. um, what's up, Maria Muniz? Did I, did I say your name incorrectly? Um, sorry about that. Anyway, I was actually hoping for like good questions. I've only gotten two so far. Have you ever astral projected by at the Sir Roman? No, and I don't think that's physically possible. I don't know how would someone astral project something that doesn't exist. Like, by the way, I've done live streams on stuff dealing with um the paranormal and the occult. I did like there was like 2 weeks where I just talked did live streams talking about different aspects of the paranormal and the extra scientific. And I didn't get into astral projection, but I would tell you that it falls into the camp of other things of which I did examine here on the stream and found them very dubious. And these were things I've looked into in the past when I was a teenager because I was all excited about these sort of alleged phenomena, and especially when um, back in the day when Time Life used to do these little book series, and one of the book series they did that I never bought, so I just read it. I checked them out at the library. It was called, I think, Mysteries of the Unknown, and each book concentrated on a different aspect of the paranormal, like ESP, um, psychic mediums, and uh, legendary locations and ghosts and spirits, channeling, stuff like that. And, all of it was quite interesting at the time. I was just starting my martial arts journey. So I was highly interested in these extra scientific abilities because I thought it could enhance me as a martial artist. And, a lot of uh, classical Asian martial arts sometimes uh, highlight beliefs and things like this, like no touch, no touch knockouts and chi energy and all this sort of goofy stuff that has no scientific basis. So yeah, I've never astral projected. Don't think anyone else has either, and don't believe that there's any phenomena like that that actually exists. If you do, I mean, that's cool. Shane Lace's greetings, my melanated brother. G Tagman dash B9W says, "Can I get your perspective on the war in Uzbekistan and how it's affecting the production of Barbies and Hot Wheels?" I have not near a clue. Have not heard of any war in Uzbekistan. Had a friend living there who worked for the State Department. He never mentioned the war, so don't know anything about it. um, well, W Waheda WW says hi. Bobby. Okay. Mm, yes, I'm making fun of autistic people now. Sue me. Oh, you can't. That's right. No, my problem, Rachel Crow, is I'm not making fun of all autistic people. What I'm making fun of is the fact that people don't know that most online trolls are neurodivergent people. Neurodivergent people tend to not have filters. They lack the mental filters that neurotypical people have. They would say, maybe it's not most the best use of my time nor the most rational thing to just go online and harass random people whom I don't know in real life and whom have done nothing against me, because autistic people don't fucking think in a rational perspective. And one of the thing categorically one of the things that they lack is empathy for others, which is why they are typically the people who you find as online trolls. Like again, they're typically neurodivergent people. They're either autistic or they have learning disabilities. So yeah, I will make fun of people who make fun of me. And if you're sensitive about that, you can kick bricks because I really don't care. On top of that, you need to understand I'm Generation X. We don't give a fuck about your feelings. Generation X has never given a fuck about anyone's feelings. We don't give a fuck about boomers, our parents. We don't give a fuck about millennials who are our younger siblings. And we definitely don't give a fuck about soft ass Gen Z. learn about Gen X because we don't give a fuck, and I don't give a fuck what you think, and I don't give a fuck if you offended that I made fun of autistic people. I'll stop making fun of autistic people when autistic people stop being online trolls. And again, if you look it up, the majority of online trolls are neurodivergent people. So don't care. Never will. Moving on. D dash spiritual dash F says, if there was a zombie apocalypse, which one of your friends would die first? Whoever tried to attack me first. Whoever tried to attack me first. Whoever either tried to attack me first or whoever turned first. I mean, once they're a zombie, literally, it depends on what version of zombie we're talking about. Are we talking about the George Romero zombies? Are we talking about the 28 days later type of zombies? Are we talking about those World War Z super zombies? Are we talking about the zombies out of that what's that Will Smith movie who are like smart zombies? And of course, that's because the movie changed what type of monsters they were. See, in the original book on which that movie was based, they weren't zombies, they were vampires, which is why they were smart. But because zombies was the thing when that movie came out, they made them into zombies who were also smart zombies, which kind of defeats the purpose of calling them zombies. Like if you're gonna have smart zombies, those are ghouls. And yes, there's a difference between ghouls and zombies. We're just coming out of spooky season, so know your monsters. Ghouls and zombies are different. But yeah, if it comes to a zombie apocalypse, whoever turns, I'm popping immediately because they're for one they're already dead, and two it would be a mercy to get to pop them after they've already turned, and three they're a danger to myself and others who are still living. So yeah, but again that depends. Like, some zombies are sentient zombies, which and then there's the original zombie of which these are all based, the Haitian zombie, and those are the ones that you should actually feel sorry for because it actually comes from a culture in which the zombie was a metaphor for people who were forced to be slaves. That some of you didn't know that, but yet I'm a nerd anyway. But yeah, so the original Haitian zombie, see, when George Romero made his zombies, it was not based on the Haitian zombies, who are people to have empathy for, right? But the George Romero zombie, which I think is the most common type of zombie, um, and pop culture, are typically dead already. So I would not have a problem killing it because literally, when someone becomes a zombie in George Romero fashion or the World War Z fashion or even the 28 Days Later fashion, they're already they're just the shell of it's just the shell of that person's body. They're no longer there here, or I should say here. Um, be a nerd for a second. So if you ever want to know where the so-called self is, the part of the brain that makes you think of you as I, capital I, the capital I that you think of when you have self-reflective thoughts of yourself, that comes right here in the orbital frontal cortex, about 2 inches down here. So yeah. So if you want to end it, end them right there. That's why I always say shoot for the head and double tap. Don't be afraid to double tap. Yeah, anyone's getting it. Friends, family, dog, cat, fish, turtle, wolf. I don't Wookie, Mogwai, Jedi, Android. I don't care. They all once they turn zombie, they've already bought the farm as far as I care. It don't matter whoever turns first is catching those blickies first. What's up, Carlton? I'm glad you're in here with me. Um, so someone said, "Dude is trying so hard to sound sophisticated. Hang it up, Unc." I'm just being myself. I don't have to try to be anything that I want. So you have to realize once you get to my age, I don't have to perform for anyone. I don't have to try to be cool. I don't have to try to be anything. One, I'm already married, so I already won my woman. I don't have to impress anyone. Two, I've always naturally been this well spoken. This is just the way I talk. I don't have to perform for anyone. If you don't like it, then that's sort of a you problem, Idrisil. Again, and people asking for shout outs is not going to happen unless anyone who wants a shout out, you're going to drop a super chat. If you want a shout out, drop a super chat. I'm not doing shout outs unless you drop a super chat. Sorry for ya. Shane Lay says, let's talk about the differences between optimistic nihilism and absurdism. I don't even know what you mean. And I literally have a philosophy degree. I don't, what is You're going to have to define your terms about optimistic nihilism and absurdism. Also, port, point of order, although I do have a philosophy degree, I specialize in analytic philosophy and philosophy of science. I don't really delve into continental philosophy, which I tend to think is a bunch of bullshit. So, and when I talk about continental philosophy, I'm basically talking about all those German and French thinkers. I don't really think very highly of what they say. It's usually just a bunch of obscure thoughts and writing just for the sake of obscurity that people take as being somehow insightful, whereas I take it as basically like pseudo wisdom. If something is if some if whether it's philosophy, whether it's philosophy or science or history or art or literature or any other intellectual endeavor, the fact that it's obscure doesn't make it insightful. And that's my problem with continental philosophy, particularly of the French and German persuasion. Good philosophy is clear, concise, and cogent. So, yeah. The server woman says, you study any Hinduism or Buddhism. I haven't studied any Hinduism. I have studied Buddhism because, again, you know, coming up in Asian martial arts as a kid, I was very interested in all the underlying philosophies behind these different martial arts that I was interested in studying. So Buddhism was definitely one of them, and the type of Buddhism I gravitated towards learning more about than any other form was Zen Buddhism, or which is called Chan Buddhism in China. But Zen Buddhism was the most interesting to me more than the other forms like Tibetan Buddhism and some of the more syncretic types of Buddhism. Not to mention the distinction between little boat Buddhism and big boat Buddhism, which I forgot the names of them, Theravada and whatever. I don't remember the the Hindi names for them, but yes, I am I won't say I'm a proponent, but I do have some some inkling towards Zen Buddhism, which I find to be have some correlates with Stoicism. Uh, Mo, I don't know how to say this. Motinz with zero says, "What's going on, good sir? I'm doing well, thank you." Uh, Chosen Being 316 says, "I've been to Asia, lived in Japan for 3 years. I have been to many different Asian and Middle Eastern countries. I was in the Navy for a while. That sounds dope, man. Definitely sound like you've been in the Navy. If you were able to go to those go to those places. My very first, although I'm an Army vet, my first choice was the Navy. I remember my father was upset because he was like, "Oh, he just wants to join the Navy because his uncle was one." First of all, if I did, so what? Like, what's bad about that? Two, he said the same thing. Well, no, he didn't say that because I never told him. He probably would have said the same thing if he knew I was going to join Sigma Phi Beta too. He'd have been like, "Oh, he just want to join Sigma Phi Beta because his uncle is Sigma Phi Beta," which I didn't end up doing, by the way. But anyway, uh, yeah, I almost joined the Navy in high school, and this is a story I've told a number of times, and it doesn't get any worse. I mean, it doesn't get any better by saying this, but the only reason I didn't join the Navy at the time was because I ended up having a girlfriend. So I was like, I'm not interested anymore. I didn't tell the recruiter that, but I was just like, I think I'm gonna hold off and wait and go to school first, go to college first, and see if I still want to do it. And she was just like, she didn't push. She was like, okay, I understand. I mean, because I was still a minor at the time, so she wasn't gonna be too forceful about it. Because even if I did decide to enlist, she was still, I would still have to get my parents, permission, to enlist since I was still 17. Um, but when I was in the army, the only place I did go to was Europe, for training. Not, I wasn't stationed there, so I didn't live in Germany or in Europe, on the European front. I just went there for some training. But yeah, I mean the Navy would have been great though for traveling. But I don't know if I wanted the Navy lifestyle. I wanted the traveling. I love the traveling aspect of Navy, just not the lifestyle. I'm more of an Army guy, like my father and my grandfather before him. I think my grandfather. I have to check I have to check my obituary, but I think he was a Army guy as well. Um, the two things that most of the guys in my father's side of the family were Army guys and Kappas, or well, Noops. So I wish I lived in Japan. But the thing is, I wouldn't even have to done it through the military. Like pretty much anyone who graduates college can go off to be into that Japanese tutoring program to become an English teacher, which is usually most people's way into starting a life in Japan. I didn't think about it at the time. I wish I did. Middle East, nah, I don't know about that one. Now I did. I was almost there when I got stationed. Well, when we got deployed, what kept me from not being there was uh, medical issues. So what's going on, Carlton? Thanks for holding me down here. Pause. Foul Mercy 8095 says JD Vance 2028. The demographics are the problem. I don't get that quote. Is that something that that Vice President Vance said? And I'm not sure what the context of that is. So, Chosen Beam says, yeah, facts. Japanese McDonald's is awesome. Yeah, people don't know. Like people who I have people who always say, "Ugh, McDonald's," or when I tell them that I go to McDonald's overseas, they're like, "Ugh, you're so basic. Why would you go to McDonald's overseas?" I'm like, "Have you ever been to McDonald's overseas?" Like literally every McDonald's overseas has a different menu just for that locality. Japanese McDonald's has a menu you will never find here. Same thing in other parts of the world. Like fried the fried chicken at McDonald's in the Philippines rivals Popeyes. Rivals Popeyes. And And in Japan, the McDonald's there, awesome. McDonald's in Taiwan, awesome. Um, who else? Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. Just naming off places I've been to. Like they all had different menus, but everywhere I go, I always buy like the same thing I would get here, and then I would try something off the local menu as well. Well, I would try to, depending on where I am. But two of the things I'll get at McDonald's, no matter what country, is usually like a Big Mac and chicken McNuggets, right? So I can get that everywhere. I'll get like before I try something local, I need some McDonald's. I need something just Americ Americana, and that usually fits the bill. But yeah, plus the plus even when you buy the normal stuff you get here, it tastes differently over there because they use fresher ingredients. This is one of the things that we're hoping RFK Jr. will change here is that we have more. He's already getting rid of certain chemicals and over processed ingredients in our food right now, but he could go a step farther. I think uh, the reason why when you go overseas, McDonald's is better is because they use better ingredients. They use healthier food options. Here, the FDA doesn't stop the food industry from poisoning us. McDonald's itself isn't poison. It's the things that the fast food industry is allowed to feed us, which makes the stuff unhealthy. If rest, if the food industry here was held to a higher standard, our food would be healthier. They feed us poison, and the FDA doesn't protect us. This is why I can go to McDonald's overseas and buy the exact same junk food that I would buy here, and it's better. It tastes better, and it's more nutritious. So sorry for that diatribe. Super. Is that intended? Let me put on my glasses here, guys. They're already calling me Obama and Unc, so I guess they just gonna double up the efforts. I don't care. I'm gonna put on my reading glasses, and I don't look anything like Obama. I'm actually black. He's not. Just saying. Anyway, Superintendent Virgil 2091 says that's 440,000 soft tacos. Just kidding. Uh, you would wish it's 540,000 soft tacos, but soft tacos cost more than $1. You're not getting 540,000. You're probably getting 500. Uh, I'll give you. You're getting 535,000, which is still a lot of damn soft tacos. But speaking of that, Superintendent, you reminded me I need to go to Taco Bell and get their new crispy chicken taco. I forgot all about that. Thank you for reminding me that I need to go. Yes, guys, I love, and I know you guys are like, why are you eating junk food, Unc? Aren't you like? Listen, guys, I run at least 7 miles every day, at least, and I'm not capping. I know some of you think I'm capping. If I could, I would show you my, but I'm using the very phone on which I use record my runs. But I would show you literally like I run at least 7 miles every day as part of. I consider myself a combat athlete, so I run at least 7 miles a day. I do my shadow boxing, my calisthenics, and other things. Um, Sometimes I do 2 runs. I might, well, it's kind of late now, so I'm probably not going to do my second run now. It's past midnight. But I, um, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't use any illicit drugs. So the, the only vice that I really can take pleasure in is either fast food or coffee. And coffee's not bad for you either. So that's not even a vice. I mean, unless you're drinking a lot of it, but I don't drink. I think the most coffee I've ever drank in a day was 4, 5 cups. And again, that's not typical. that my average amount of cups of coffee per day is two. That's my average. Some days is only one. Some days is three or four. And usually the time when I was drinking the most amount of coffee was when I was working in. I used to work at a call center, and it was so it was so. That's the only thing that got me through the day was coffee. Like, so sue me. I had it was either coffee or I wasn't going to function. So in order to make my sales, in order to make it through the day doing something completely horrendous, I needed coffee. And that wasn't bad because there was other people who would just take breaks and smoke weed. Now I did, and I couldn't knock them for it. I was like, because this job is so dreary. If people need to get high to make it through the day, I understand. Like I said, I didn't get high, but I did drink coffee. So, and I think coffee is probably the healthier alternative to smoking weed, especially since weed is carcinogenic, and especially you don't want street level weed because street level weed here in Baltimore is always laced with something. I mean, well, I won't even go into that. Carlton says I can flip 540,000. Someone give it to me. I know. Oh, Carlton, don't think I was complaining about 540,000. Like, oh, dang. I'm not saying I don't want it. Of course, I want it. I already, I already mentioned the two things I would do with it. I said either I would um, buy a small fast food franchise, or I would buy my secondary passport through a citizenship and by investment program. So I could definitely use the 540,000. I was just saying as an inheritance that was a oddly specific number. You don't think so? Like, doesn't that sound like an oddly specific number to ask you about for an inheritance? Like that sounds like that was something that sounds like something that user actually did inherit because who because if it was just a hypothetical, like you would pick probably a more rounded number, like you would say 500,000, or you would say a million, or 10 million, or something like that. I wouldn't picture someone saying 540,000. That's it was such an oddly specific number. I was like, that's both I was like both, and that's why I was saying that's both like a lot of money for a person with no money, and not a lot of money for someone who has higher ambitions. So, but absolutely, yeah, I would take that amount in a heartbeat. That's also a lot of hose and blow. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't. Someone's going to clip that. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Walter Matthews says Jesus saves. Spivneret X Praxis says I need an opinion. If someone whines about something, does that not mean they're attached to that something? Um, that's way too vague to give you any sort of informed opinion about that. I'm sorry, that's just too vague. Like, just because you whine about something doesn't um, mean you're attached to it. It might mean you thought about it. I'm thinking about something doesn't mean you're attached to something. So I'm not. I don't know what you mean because that's just too vague. What you spelled out there. Carlin says I just put a clown in timeout. No, I've seen. I saw you put like one or two people in timeout. 5681 is bringing up the common a common uh, thought experiment in philosophy called Neurath's boat. Neurath being uh, a, a philosopher from 20th century philosophy named Otto Neurath, who was a logical positivist. Um, and Neurath boat was named after him by W.V.O. Quine, Willard Van Orman Quine, one of the most who was a radical empiricist and one of the most important philosophers to ever live. Unfortunately, he died in 2001, right as I started my second major in philosophy. So I never got the chance to meet him when he was because he was I think he was still at that time professor emeritus at Harvard University, and professor's um, he was my professor's faculty advisor and mentor. But he talked about Nearest boat, which is the thought is so if you are out at sea on a boat which needs repairs, um, you you know if you had to repair it, you would do it piece you would do it piecemeal, plank by plank. You wouldn't try to fix everything wrong with the ship at the same time. To do so would cause the ship to sink. So being at sea at nearest boat means is a metaphor for fixing our beliefs, our web of beliefs that we can't fix all of our beliefs within our web of beliefs at the same time, or it'll leave us in a position of epistemic confusion because we will have no position to stand in which we can fix our other beliefs within that set of beliefs. Um, but also, I think 5681 is also talking about a more ancient thought experiment. It goes back to ancient Greece. I forgot the name of the boat. I think this goes back to I think Aristotle. Um, that if you and you know Vision talked about this on if people watch Wanda Vision, there's about to be a new one, Vision Quest, that comes out next year. But anyway, in WandaVision and an original philosophical problem, the question becomes if you replace every piece of the boat, are you still is it still the same boat? And there's reasons to say yes, it is the same boat, and there's reasons to say it isn't the same boat. It comes down to you know dipping into sort of my little Wittgensteinian philosophy here. It basically comes down to what the 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 vagueness and ambiguity in ordinary language. Like if we're talking about the same ship, like what when we say is it the same ship, we have to define what we mean by the same ship. Are we defining the same ship merely phys- out of do we mean same ship merely because of its physical resemblance, right? Because in that case, you might say we're never the same person because we're constantly through mitosis replacing previous cells, so that literally we are born anew every time our individual cells divide and replicate and replace the dead ones. So through mitosis, we're not the same people. If we mean if we mean the same ship, we mean the same structure. Uh, it gets down to what are we talking about here? Um, physical, if we're talking about physical identity over time, if we're talking about physical identity over time, then no, it wouldn't be the same ship, right? Um, but obviously, there's something more to it being the quote unquote same ship than just physical identity over time. There's also what we're also talking about the ship in a more and something beyond just its physical identity over time. We were talking about, the naming of that ship, the format, because like, you could say it's the same ship if it follows the same blueprint. So our bodies are constantly dividing and creating new cells, but it's following the same genetic blueprint. So thank you for this nerdy question. um, but yeah, so it depends on what we mean. If we're talking about just physical identity over time, then no, it's not the same ship. If we're talking about it follows the same a same schematic, um, some sort of prototype or blueprint, then as long as that remains the same, then it is the same ship. So it gets basically into it basically, whether we consider the same ship or not, basically depends on how we're defining what is the same ship. Is that merely a physical resemblance, or are we talking about the meaning that it's made of the same exact pieces, the same wood, the same metal, the same all of that stuff, or are we talking about the very, or are we talking about the very infrastructure of the ship? Like it has the same dimensions, the same hull, same, you know, all of the same things that the original ship had. It's just been replaced by newer material. Arguably, I would say it's the same ship. Like I would find it hard. I would be I would think in ordinary talk, like outside of philosophy, I would think in ordinary talk you would find it hard pressed for people to say that just because things have been replaced on a ship over time, or in a car over time, or in a space rocket over time, to resemble the exact same way it was before, that it's not no longer the same. It is no longer that same thing. So Superintendent Virgil 2091 says, "Are you a Marvel or DC fan?" I'm both. I think fans who fans who only choose Marvel or DC are depriving themselves, because there's good stuff in both. And plus I'm not just a Marvel DC fan. I'm also a fan of Image and Dark Horse and what's the other one? But yeah, all five major comic book companies. I'm a fan of all the stuff they do. Not to mention of the anime companies as well. I mean the manga companies. Justio.7860 says, Jesus Christ of Nazareth died for your sins so you could live with him in heaven. Well, okay. Robin Buckley dash MP4 says, what's the party? As Carlton says, the zombie apocalypse question was funny. Yeah, it was. Because to me, I mean, I'm looking at it, I know I'm looking at it in an abstract way, but from my perspective, if one of my friends like turned, they're no longer my friend. They're just a husk of a shell. Like it wouldn't matter to me that I killed the zombie. That once the person became a zombie, they're no longer my friend. They're just in the body of there. It's just the body of the person who once was my friend. It's just like seeing the body of someone who passed away. That's no longer that person. Is personhood. So the issue is personhood uh, necessitates some sort of psychological connectedness. Without the psychological connectedness, you can't say that's any longer that person, or at least no longer the same person. So if a friend turned into a zombie, yeah, I'm gonna pop him because hey, it's no longer my friend. it's just a zombie. Like I said, unless we talking about those zombies from the Will Smith movie who still retain their sentience, that was a different, you know, that was a different type of zombie. But like I said, most people when they think of zombies, they're thinking of the George Romero type zombies. Dominic Mewing 920 says, "Glory to the state of Israel and to my glorious King Benjamin Netanyahu." Well, he's not a king, so that's weird. And yes, I'm referring to I Am Legend. So again, I Am Legend was based on a novel. It was originally based on like a science fiction horror novel, and in the original novel, the the monsters weren't zombies; they were vampires. This is why they were intelligent. But because zombie movies were the trend at the time when I Am Legend the film came out, they decided to turn them from vampires into zombies, but they retained the fact that they were intelligent like vampires. So that kind of threw it for a loop. It would have been better if they made them ghouls because again, ghouls can be intelligent, from my understanding. And also, if I'm not mistaken, in George Romero's first film, Night of the Living Dead, he didn't intend them to be zombies originally. I think he intended them to be more akin to ghouls, but mindless ghouls. Um, but they later been were known were later seen to be zombies. So whatever. Yep. You said I'm talking about I Am Legend. Yep. Thank you. Carter says brains. What's both weird about zombies and vampires is how is someone going to turn into those monsters if they eat them? And especially the vampires, like it's like if they if they suck on you a little bit, pause, you become a vampire, but they keep sucking, then you're dead. Like I don't get it. Or they in some versions, vampires can also turn people into werewolves or into ghouls. So I don't know. Josh plays G Tag says just be yourself, man. That's all that matters. Oh, I am. I'm not changing for anyone because they're not paying me to change myself in any way. This is a ask me anything format where I allow people to ask random goofy questions and I answer it. But if someone thinks I'm putting on airs just because they can't keep up, that's sort of a problem for them, not so much for me. Someone asked, "Can I sing?" Yeah, I'm not singing anything. Like, don't like people can ask me questions, but if you're making requests, those requests have to be monetized. I don't take unsolicited requests. So if you are making a request of me, that's not the same thing as asking me a question. If you're making a request of me, you're gonna have to drop it in a super chat or you're gonna have to donate to the Cash App. I don't take unsolicited requests. Chosen Bean says the best McDonald's fried chicken is in South Korea. So I haven't been to South Korea yet. I was supposed to go to Seoul and I didn't. Uh, but I don't know. That could be true because Korean fried chicken is really good because they double fry it. A lot of people don't know about the double how Koreans do the double fried chicken. So they it might be better than Philippine McDonald's. I don't know. All I know is Philippine McDonald's is as as tasty as Popeyes. I so I will have to try South Korean McDonald's fried chicken for myself before I testify to saying it's better than McDonald's Philippines fried chicken, because that so far that is the best so far. Carlin says I support RFK regarding the food stuff. Yeah, as much as people want to count, consider him, dabbling in pseudoscience and uh, vax denial. Um, when it comes to food, I think most of us are with him, regardless of what you think about his other quirky ideas when it comes to health and stuff like that. I think most people are on board with him. Like even the people who dislike him have even kind of said, "Well, yeah, we kind of agree with him in getting rid of these weird chemicals in our food, like things that do nothing but just are food coloring, but they're toxic." Christina Khan says, "What's up, brother? What's up?" Carlin says, "There's a correlation between junk food and criminal behavior." Um, there is a correlation, but that's not a strong positive correlation. So it's not when you have a strong positive correlation, that that gives you reason to delve more and do more research to see if that correlation translate into some sort of causational um, link. So for because some people always say correlation does not equal causation. That's true, depending on the type of correlational study. Some people don't know that there's certain types of correlational study that does actually give um, causational inference, causal inference. Also, um, some strong positive correlations have been so well established that we know that there is a causal link. So, for instance, with smoking cigarettes and lung cancer, like that was just a strong positive correlation. So, for a long time, people say, well, that's just a correlation. That's not causational. No, well, we know it does cause lung cancer. We know it causes emphysema. We know it causes other types of, cancers as well, such as you know, oral and throat cancers, and other sorts of deleterious effects on the body. But for the longest time, we could only have correlational research because we couldn't do a causational experimental study where we actually could manipulate that sort of variable on a person, which would be unethical. So these were always like correlational studies. But like I said, you can there are certain correlational studies that can give causation, that can give causal inference. Um, but when it comes to junk food and criminal behavior, that has been a hypothesis long time ago in social and you know study and behavioral social research. The correlation is positive, but is a weak link, and it's probably because it's due to spurious variables. Those spurious variables are such things as people who display criminal behavior and the people who eat junk food both tend to come from the same type of low low social economic status environment, which would breed both criminality and the eating of junk food. So Curtis says, please put up a poll right now for the chat. A poll for what? Pause. But yeah, what sort of? I mean, I don't know what sort of poll you're. What you want people to vote on. Justin Clark says, best piece of advice for a 40-year-old man to start becoming a better man. Um, it's kind of vague. I would say you need to get fit, personal fitness. At 40 years old, if you're not fit, you should be doing that right away. because at your age, it's going to come quick. That bad health is going to come at you quickly. I would say personal fitness. Like I could give tons of advice, but none of that really matters if you're not healthy, fit and healthy because you're coming into your middle years. So I would say you need to be taking your physical fitness very seriously at that age. Carson says you can afford the calories to eat Taco Bell because you run a lot, but some people need to be in a deficit. Oh yeah, definitely. I wasn't recommending Taco Bell to other people. I was saying, I don't. Well, I was joking saying the guy who thought you could buy 540,000 tacos with $540,000 doesn't realize that tacos cost more than $1. Even the cheapest ones, soft tacos. I hate to be like, you know, in unk mode here. Like I remember back in the day, but I do remember back in the day when the the crunchy taco and soft taco, I think, were like 29 cents. I think they were like 29 cents. It was either the 29 cents or 49 cents, something like that. Less than $1 up until like the mid 90s. And even by the early 90s, I think they were still like only like 79 cents per taco. And I'm talking about the basic ones, the soft taco or the crunchy taco. Um, but I remember back in the 80s when I was a little kid, I don't know if it was a promo or if that was the regular price, but I remember them being 29 cents. And if I had money back then, I would have destroyed them. It probably would have just, well, never mind. I was going to say, but probably would have destroyed my stomach, but hey, I would have destroyed those. I mean, I did. The problem was Taco Bell. Taco Bell wasn't local, so I didn't often go there. But 29-cent tacos, shit. Joe dash FQ3UZ says, "What are we arguing here? Not arguing anything." He says, "How can I get high on weed and I have bad effects?" Yeah. Moving on. Rachel Crow says, "Are you the guy who called us autistic?" I called online trolls autistic. If you're an online troll, you're probably neurodivergent. Just as a matter of just as a matter of probability, most online trolls are neurodivergent. Not necessarily autistic, but they're neurodivergent. Neurodivergent refers to people who are on the autistic spectrum, to people who have ADHD, people who have learning disabilities, and sometimes it refers to people who have below average or borderline intellectual functioning. So those are the folks whom I refer to as, who tend to be trolls. I can't armchair diagnose anyone and say whether they're autistic or not, but I do know the symptoms, and online trolls tend to display them just by the fact just by virtue of the fact that they're up late at night trolling people is a huge red flag that they're probably autistic or neurodivergent in some fashion, because most of them don't have regular sleeping patterns, which reminds me I need to get off pretty soon. Um, um, ZRUI dash S4I2M asks, "Hi, how are you? A question I have is whether being too dexterity minded as a man could be a massive hindrance when seeking to date women." I don't know what dexterity minded means, to be honest. I'm not trying to be funny. Just use plain talk. Like you don't have to try to dress something up to make it sound better. What do you mean dexterity minded? Do you mean too masculine, too touchy feely? I don't know what dex. Dexterity. That's what I don't know what you mean by dexterity. I don't know if you mean someone who's too touchy feely, or I don't know if you mean too masculine or macho. I you would have to explain what that means, bruv. It's not doctor says hey, what's up? Excuse me. 5681 says, is the demand for explanation itself a feature of human cognition, not reality? Huh? What? Um, the demand for explanation. We, I don't know what that means. I would think that's a feature of human cognition because we evolved to be, we evolved to be people who track it, how do I put this? Um, Human cognition evolved in a way that we like to we have logic, we have built-in logical detectors, which helps us um, insofar as being able to um, make our way through the world by tracking reality and being able to determine truth value. We we evolved to be truth evaluators. So in in that capacity, I guess we would ask for explanation. I guess I don't, but I'm struggling to understand that question. Human cognition is a part of reality, so I don't know how that would be a either or sort of thing. So Carlton says, I don't see people fighting and shooting the Whole Foods. Hell no, because Whole Foods cost too damn much to be acting stupid. Got to get these what are those the grapes that taste like cotton candy? You know, these little they got these cotton candy grapes, but yet they're still somehow all natural, um, non-GMO, which that's the funniest shit when you hear foods like seedless grapes being non-GMO. I'm like, no, seedless grapes is definitely genetically modified. It's impossible to have non-GMO seedless grapes or non-GMO seedless watermelons. Like they come naturally with seeds. How are they non-GMO? How is it non-GMO seedless cotton candy tasting grapes? That food is expensive to get the labels with non-GMO from field to what was from field to market. Um, no all the different what they, what's the thing they say there's no what's the stuff in bread, none of that in it, like no pesticides, all that. You paying like $10 more for all that, for all those little pointless labels at Whole Foods. And no one's shooting up the shooting up the spot in Whole Foods. No, they go, no, that's the Bonnet Crew. The Bonnet Crew goes off to Popeyes. The Bonnet Crew goes off to McDonald's to wall out. Like the Bonnet Crew will jump over the jump over the counter at Popeyes because you didn't give them the spicy chicken that they requested, so they're gonna just jump over the counter and start fixing their own food. But I don't give a fuck. You make me my fucking chicken. Like just wilding out, beating up people. The manager come out. The manager gets a 2-piece and a biscuit, but not the food. Like, oh, speaking of which, Carlton, do you know I applied to? I'm not lying. You don't think I'm joking? I applied to the Waffle House. Shit, I can fight. I might as well apply to Waffle House. But no, I know to to assuage you because you're like, why would you apply to Waffle House, brother? You got several degrees. I didn't apply to be like a cook or a waiter. I applied as an operations manager. I didn't apply to be on the floor. of an actual restaurant. I applied as an operations manager at Waffle House, but I don't know. Maybe it goes down on the corporate side too. Maybe the corporate side, like when you come in for an interview, they be like, "Oh, so you're applying to Waffle House, huh?" Like, yes, sir. So, what styles of combat do you know? I'm like, oh, okay. Good question. Well, I do know John Fanji Kundo. I know Muay Thai. I know Penchak a lot. I know a little bit of boxing. I know some Taekwondo. I know some Savat. I know Judo uh, and freestyle wrestling. Oh, okay, okay, that's quite impressive because over here at Waffle House, we expect everyone to know combat sports because sometimes we might have to send you into the field, and we send you into the field, you don't have to be able to protect yourself. Are you packing, by the way? Because if not, once you get hired here, it comes with a complimentary 9mm semi-automatic subcompact pistol. I'm joking. Stop. But no, I did actually apply as operations manager at Waffle House. That wasn't a lie. 56816 explaining everything yields brute fact, infinite regress, or quote unquote necessary being. Every option breaks our demand for reasons. What? What? I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You sound like you just came out of philosophy 101 class and now you're trying to as hard as possible to like use those things that you learned. I am not following what you're saying. And I am trying. Asking quote unquote why about everything and you hit a wall, no answer, endless answers, or a magic answer. Again, I don't know what you're talking about, but again, I delve back to Wittgenstein when I find that a lot of intellectual problems, particularly in philosophy, are usually problems of language, not of the content of that language. It's the content of those questions themselves, but usually the framing of those questions by the vagueness and ambiguity of ordinary language. So, anyway, Ray Blavin says, "Who's this? Huh? Why? Why you say who is this when you came to my channel? That's a little quixotic." I, he goes on to say, "Sir, what is your opinion on the number five of no the opinion 51?" Literally have no opinion on the number 51. I don't get it. Carlin says, "Do you think we're living inside of a simulation?" I think if we are living in a simulation, like the so-called simulation hypothesis in theoretical physics, there's no way we would really know if it's a good enough hypothesis. Um, the more interesting detail about it is we don't have any reason to think we do. I mean, well, let me clarify. So, I mean, let me qualify that so theoretical physicists have, often tinker with the idea of a simulation hypothesis. I think some of the thought experiments that go on in theoretical physics are highly interesting, but I don't take them seriously. I think they are a matter. They just show the level of desperation in the physics community today that they haven't been able to answer anything in the past 70 years, really. I mean, they've done a few things like we discovered gravitational waves, through LIGO. We discovered the Higgs boson. Um, we found out that supersymmetry isn't real. But I mean, aside from that, we've really haven't made there has not been huge inroads in physics in the past 70 years. So they've gotten desperate and latched on to anti-realism. And there's just like there's no reason to believe that we're just a brain in a vat. I don't really take it seriously that we're in a simulation hypothesis because extraordinary. claims require extraordinary evidence. So I find such sort of ideas kind of dubious outside of there being some sort of actual evidence for it. Not just merely, it can't just be merely that it makes a good thought experiment. It has to actually like have some sort of hard evidence underwriting it. And I don't find any hard evidence underwriting the idea of the simulation hypothesis. Um, but again, if we were in a really good simulation, we wouldn't know anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it. Because like I said, just like with the brain and the vat hypothesis, they we need we need reasons to think that that is the case. So I don't. So yeah, I find this simulation hypothesis dubious. Of course, I could be wrong. I could always be wrong. I'm not a theoretical physicist, but again, it's not like theoretical physics has done anything in the past 70 years. So there you go. Carlton says I haven't seen grapes with seeds in years. Exactly, but even though you'll most of the grapes you see are seedless or they have the very small. Most of them aren't like truly seedless, like they just have the really tiny seeds. Same thing with bananas. Bananas just have very tiny seeds in them, but bananas do have seeds in them. But the funny thing is that you'll see these fruit or vegetables or legumes called non-GMO foods at Whole Foods or it's some other sort of like similar type of grocery store. And I'm like, how are these non-GMO? Literally every food that we eat today is genetically modified because they don't resemble their ancestral form. The ancestral form of bananas looks nothing like the ones we eat today. The ancestral grapes we eat today are nothing like the ones that grew in the wild before people modified them. And that's all that agriculture is. Like when when humans first developed agriculture and farming, that was genetically modifying food. It was just through a much slower process, including animals. When we domesticated animals, that's genetically modifying them. The dairy cow does not resemble the ancestral animal from which it came, which is a much more aggressive and dangerous animal. The chicken coming from some sort of wild pheasant doesn't resemble its ancestral form. So this is all genetic modification. Where we get bugged out is the difference between traditional agriculture and modern day bioengineering. So and avian science. Carson says UFC should host an event at Waffle House. That would be hilarious. Yeah, we talked about this before, didn't we? No, we said White House before. When the White House is going to host the UFC event, which makes sense. I don't know why people are so shocked. They forget that our current president was on WWE. that he fought uh that he fought McMahon on WWE. I remember it. A lot of people who don't watch wrestling don't know, but a lot of these little Ivy Ivy Tower liberals may have not watched wrestling and know that the current president had once wrestled in the WWE. I remember it, and it was fucking hilarious because it was both. They were both talking about who had a toupee, and whoever was the loser had to shave the other person's head. Um, well, Trump did win, so he shaved McMahon's head. um, but, but as far as Waffle House, yeah, why not? Shit, it would be a good promotion for both Waffle House and UFC. I wouldn't be. I'm pretty sure if someone could come up with a good enough promotion, Dana White would do it. I'm pretty sure Dana White. I mean, look, we already got we already have a slapping competition. We have a power slapping competition. My only beef with Dana White is we have a power slapping contest, but we can't get like a kickboxing and Muay Thai event. Like if he wanted to compete with the one FC, then he would start a Muay Thai and kickboxing events with the UFC instead of just MMA. One FC does one FC does everything. They have MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and submission grappling. Four different types of events, of which several of their competitors have won belts in multiple events, like the female Thai boxer Stamp Fairtax. Before she had to go into recovery, she had three out of the four belts for as champion. She had the kickboxing belt, she had the Muay Thai belt, and she had the MMA belt. The only thing she didn't have was the submission grappling belt, and she was close to getting that. She was a top contender for that. Um, but yeah, we have a power slapping league, but we can't get kickboxing and Muay Thai. But again, if a guy is willing to set up a whole league of power slapping, I can't see why he would reject the idea of having an event at a Waffle House. It would be fucking delicious and fun to watch. To go to an event at the Waffle House, man, sign me up. I would go. I wouldn't compete, but I would watch. But at least I can fight if something breaks out in the crowd. uh, but yeah, can we not talk about how stupid power slapping is? Like seriously, like people be like, "Yeah, yeah, boy, you ain't gonna do nothing over here." I mean, to be willing to sit there and just let someone slap the shit out of you and show that you won't get knocked out by the slap, because they're slapping you so hard they can literally knock you the hell out. You gotta sit there and actually take the slap and then slap the shit out of someone else. And what makes it so, and like, come on, Dana White knows this shit. This is mostly comedy. Like the funny thing is how they start prepping to slap the person before they slap them. Like they're like, you gonna fill a person up or you gonna slap them? God damn. Then they like, then they cock back, look at him like, the, like that is the dumbest shit I have literally ever seen. Once Power Slapping came out, I'm like, okay, so Idiocracy, the movie, has really became true at this point. Anytime we have a Power Slapping league, the movie Idiocracy is no longer a satire; it's a documentary. That was when I knew Idiocracy was the real thing. Like Trump is half a step away from President what's his name? Elio, whatever. All he needs to do is come into the White House with an AR-15 to start shooting up shit, doing a a joint session of Congress. Come to the joint session of Congress doing a speech. Uh, what do you call it? The when he has to address the union address, the State of the Union address. If he came into the State of the Union address with an AR-15 and start shooting that shit out, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is completely idiocracy. Literally, that's the only part we're missing from this being full idiocracy is that the president needs to come in, President Hector Camacho, with a machine gun, start shooting shit up during the State of the Union address. That's all we missing because the president literally did do pro wrestling just like President Camacho did in Idiocracy, and they want to host the UFC event at the White House, right? So that's hilarious. Sorry, here we go. I'm back. Um, what? Wait, did I pin some event? Oh, Rob Carr says, "Can you give me motivational quote? You seem like a chill guy. I wonder what you can pass on to us." I'm not a motivational speaker. Um, I'll say this. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones, but one of my favorite moments in Game of Thrones, there were many great moments in it, at least from the first 6 seasons. The last 2 seasons sucked ass, but from the first 6 seasons, the sixth season is my favorite, even though it went beyond the 5 books a bit. When Jon Snow came back to life and he was speaking to what's that guy's name? The the guy missing fingers who um was loyal to King well, not the real king, but the king Stannis Baratheon, and he's like, "What are you gonna do now?" He's like, "I don't know." He said, "I thought I was doing the right thing, and they killed me for it." He was like, "Good, now get out there and do it again." That to me is motivation. If you don't understand the import of that, then you have to watch that scene. You have to go to season 6 of Game of Thrones, and I think it's the second or third episode when, because he wasn't. Yeah, I think it's the third episode. Um, when Jon Snow, because Jon Snow isn't revived to the second episode. He's revived at the end of the second episode by the red by the red priestess. And in that third episode, he's talking, to the guy. He's like, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I got killed for it. And the guy looked at him, gave him a solemn look, and said, "Good, and get up and go do it again." That's your motivation. All right. Joey just Woey says, "What's your favorite chips?" Um, um, that's it's either gonna be sour cream. It's a toss up between the sour cream and onion rippled potato chips. Either those or the Frito corn chips. So have the Frito barbecue corn chips, but there's a knockoff Fritos. They're not real Fritos. They're like a generic version. They have what's they're hot. Instead of them being barbecue, they're hot. I like those. And then there's the party mix. It's between those. I don't really have a favorite chips. I just munch them all like women. Same style. I'm joking. Don't clip that. um, Five says, sorry, LOL, I was just tossing you a late night philosophy boss fight. Um, yeah, but like I said, sometimes people try too hard to sound philosophical. And like I said, what most people don't understand until they've actually taken philosophy, at least if they've taken analytic philosophy, is that obscure ideas don't make for good philosophy. Obscure ideas only sound like good philosophy to people who've never taken philosophy, but to people who've actually taken philosophy, obscure ideas just sound like they're poorly structured ideas. Carlos says power slapping is silly. Oh yeah, they do have a pillow. He said they have a pillow fighting league too. I forgot about. I forgot about that. I surely did. And that's what I don't understand. Like Dana White will invest in pillow fighting and power slapping, but doesn't want a kickboxing or a Muay Thai events in the UFC. That to me that doesn't make sense. especially when I don't know. I don't. Is he like? I think the. So I'm pretty sure the pillow fighting and the power slapping don't make a lot of money, and I'm pretty sure that those leagues are only able to be subsidized by the profits of the UFC. So I don't know. I think I've only watched the pillow fighting once, but I've seen multiple power slapping events because they're always on Facebook or Instagram. People be talking serious shit. I was like, how can you talk like there's nothing manly about sitting there and just letting someone slap you across the face just to show how tough you are, and then you slap them like that. Like, I mean, I guess if it was for pimps, yeah, but these little guys acting like they manly men, like, yeah, boy, I got that dog in me. I got that dog in me, boy. You ain't fade nothing over here. Then all of a sudden, and they just fall out like a little bitch. I can't, I can't take it seriously. And pillow fighting, like, what's next? A tickle league? You went from power slapping to pillow fighting to it's like what's next? Tickles? It's gonna be like tickle tickle sports extreme or something. Tickle. I don't know. Speaking of tickling, 50 Cent is documentary uh about Puffy Diddy Combs is coming out on December 2nd called The Reckoning. Just saying. I'm not saying why I said that because of tickling, but you probably get why I said that. Anyway, I'm being silly. Lucifer Rose says you look like Will Smith. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, that's not a bad comparison. I just don't think I look like him. The only person I kind of agree people say I used to look like, not anymore, I don't think. People used to say I look like Omar Epps. They say I look like Omar Epps or Blair Underwood. Blair Underwood was the boyfriend on Set It Off. If he's been on a lot of other things, he used to be a big soap opera star before he got into movies. But before he got into movies, he was known for being on soap operas back in the 80s and early 90s. So people say I look like Blair Underwood, and then people say I look like Omar Epps, the guy from Juice. But I definitely don't think I look like Will Smith or Don Cheadle or people say I look like uh, the guy from Breaking Bad. I I don't see it. Anywho, I'm gonna go now, and it's 1 a.m. So guess I won't be doing that secondary run this late. Um, well, say la vie. Um, but I wanted to do this because I was supposed to do it Sunday, so I'd rather do this than. Well, I was. I should have. I actually probably should have done the secondary run first because that would have only taken me 20 minutes, and then done this. But the problem was I ate and I couldn't run on a full stomach. That would have been highly uncomfortable. So those are the breaks. Anyway, guys, I'm out. Um, unless anyone else has another question. I'll give it a few seconds. Then after that, I'm gone and I'm going to chug another full serving of this to save preserve my voice. If you guys haven't already, please give me a like and a subscribe. You can share these. I might do more of these stuff like this in the future. I mean, not ask me anything. I've done those before, but yeah, I'm talking about these little. I'll do more in these little Q&A things, like the one you see posted on your screen right now. Jill says, "Dang, bro, I just saw you were on." Yeah, but it's 1 a.m. here, so it's way beyond my bedtime for someone who likes to get up early. Colin says, "I'll ask you about wormholes, but I'll keep you on live for tomorrow." No, that's quick. That's a quick and easy thing. Um, Wormholes are a hypothetical construct that I don't believe most physicists actually believe exist. And even if they did exist, they wouldn't actually be stable for space travel because they are too unstable. These Einstein Rose space time bridges would be too unstable for space travel, and they're they're minute, they're micro size. They're not like in the movies, in the sci-fi movies where they're big enough for like spaceships to travel through. They're like very tiny, and again, they're hypothetical constructs. I don't think most physicists think they actually exist, but through through some equations in quantum field theory, they could be hypothesized to exist. Joe says, "Where's my $2,000?" It's in the mail. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go. Um, it's late for me, and I need to drink some water before I lose my voice. So I'm out, guys. Take it easy, guy. Cilantro is the best. All right, take care.